Alright guys, welcome back to the Rocky Fern. My name is Luca, I have OI type 4, and on today's Show Me the Green we have this awesome little cutie, the Euphorbia piscidermis. Let's go. Alright, so when it comes to Euphorbia, this guy stands out among all of them, and there's over 9,000 different Euphorbia. You know, quick brief history on the Euphorbia. They're named after the Greek doctor Euphorbos, and he used to use the milky latex as a very strong purgative, something that would just clear you out real quick. So, you know, they do have a milky latex that can be irritating to some. For me, it's very irritating. I know some of the Medusa Euphorbias, I've gotten some of the sap on my hands, no open cuts, and it was burning. So keep that in mind, don't get in your eyes. But most Euphorbias that are succulents have thorns, and this guy is completely thornless. Piscidermis means fish scale, skin, and I'll show some close-ups of this, but it definitely does have fish scale skin. And I got it from an Etsy shop, 1AM Succulents. 1AM Succulents is an awesome Etsy store. They're based out of California. I've ordered a lot of things from 1AM Succulents. I can't say enough good things about them. They're very consistent. Their plants are amazing. Even though this is a grafted plant, it is still a very slow grower, which is why it's probably grafted. It has produced 3 new heads for me since I've received it. But it's very slow growing. And while it does get exposure to direct sun, it's in an area of the succulent garden where it's protected from midday sun. And it gets morning sun and late afternoon direct sun exposure, and it's been thriving. I did have one other piscidermis that rotted on me pretty quick, but we were experiencing super heavy rains, and it got one heavy soaking and then it rotted on me. So I've been very careful. It is in my succulent mix, which is very coarse, very porous, and it's topped with a gravel top dressing. It does come from Ethiopia, and it comes from 2 really local spots, and that's it. And it's kind of in more of a montane area. And so if you can get your hands on some Fishscale Euphorbia, I would. It's a very unique plant, very cool. I do enjoy it quite a bit. When it comes to producing seeds and whatnot, there's several ways to do it. You can do offsets, which most of the time it's not going to produce offsets unless it's grafted. Now, a note on grafting. Some people are for grafting, some are against. I really don't care. It's producing a very beautiful plant that I don't think I would be able to keep as healthy otherwise, so I'm all for it. Now the rooting stalk is actually buried quite a bit. You might be able to see it, you might not, but I don't even notice it. But it's very obviously that it's grafted. And grafting is just where you take some root stock of a very robust species. It could be Canariensis in this case. It has to be another Euphorbia species. In the case of cactus, it has to be another cactus species if you're going to graft a cactus onto another cactus. But in this case, it's going to be a graft onto another Euphorbia. And what you're looking for is strong growth structure in the roots that's going to feed this slower growing scion, or the top piece that they've grafted on here. And it's a very strong graft. I don't think I'll ever degraft. I may play around with taking some of these offsets and, you know, seeing how they'll do on their own, if they'll produce their own roots, but that's going to be down the line. The other way is Euphorbias are dioecious, so you have male plants and female plants. You need one of each to produce viable seed, and from what I've read, once you do produce viable seed, the seeds do sprout readily and quickly, but they keep the seed cap or the seed helmet on for months. And if you remove that seed cap, then you actually doom the plant, the seedling. So if you ever do produce, or if we ever do produce here on this channel, we'll document that and follow along. We won't remove that seed cap or the helmet. And then it is a well, after the helmet comes off on its own accord, then the cotyledons will be produced. And in this case, Euphorbias are dicotyledons, so it will produce 2 first leaves as opposed to 1 leaf. Like aloes are monocotyledons, so they'll produce 1 leaf and then they'll kind of start producing their typical structure. Euphorbias will produce 2, and then from those 2 cotyledons, or the dicotyledons, they'll fall off and the true growth will start forming. You know, one interesting thing is the plant Welwitschia mirabilis. It will only ever have 2 leaves its whole life, but when it's first produced out of the seed, it produces its cotyledons, and then it's 2 true leaves, two true leaves, and technically it has 4 leaves. So it's the only time in its that life's history, or in that plant's history, that it'll ever have more than 2 leaves. Just something as a side rant. Anyway, so follow along. We're going to continue to produce updates on this plant. It is a miniature euphorbia, so they don't get very big. I think 5-6 inches tall, so we're about halfway there, and then it should start producing some of its offsets if it wasn't grafted. Of course, being grafted, they tend to produce a ton of offsets, which I'm okay with. It's a very pretty plant. The flowers and the bracts that it produces come out in between the scales, and they're, like most euphorbia, are very small, so that's going to be cool. I'll take pictures of that when that happens. But if you like what you see, make sure to give a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next adventure.